Hello everyone, this is Ronnie and we're here in the garden. This is at my parents' house where I've planted a whole bunch of apple trees here, and you can see the apples starting to grow. And this is something that we don't really see a lot of, is apple trees or fruit trees in general. When we're growing up in this country we don't see a lot of fruit trees. And apparently when I was younger, my grandfather had some apple trees, and I asked him why did he buy apples and stick them on a tree or something like that. This is a plum tree. You can see that there's going to be quite a lot of plums this year. But you can also see there's some worrying signs of maybe some kind of disease going on. Not sure what that disease is. It's like a curly leaf curl or something. But looks like there's an abundance of plums. This tree I think was planted probably 3 years ago. The apple trees as well, probably 3 years ago. So not doing too bad. Unfortunately I might be out of the country by the time that these ripen up. And there's another apple tree there. This is Discovery, a well-known apple from UK. And that's chickens. Primarily my mum looks after, my dad as well. Let's go and sit in this little seat. Oh, there's a bumblebee in the seat, look at that. I don't know why he's chosen to chill out here. Would you please give me my seat back? I guess he's dead. He's clinging on. Don't really want to sit on him. Maybe he's asleep, let's see. Let's try and move him. Are you awake? Are you dead? Okay, you look kind of deadish. Let's see if we can find out something about the bumblebee. I don't know why he would have just died. Jeez, are you dead? No energy? Coma maybe? Amazing. Let's throw you off the seat, sorry. Okay. So I guess this is what I would like to have more in the future, like a fruit garden. And many years ago I came across a few films. One of them was a guy, I need to remember the names, but you could probably find it on YouTube if you look up Forest Garden or something like that. And Forest Garden and Fruit Forest. There was a guy in the UK that was kind of a pioneer of that stuff, and he had, like an amazing forest garden with all these fruit trees in it. And then there's the permaculture movement, which is Bill Mollison, and there's some amazing documentaries with him on YouTube. One is called In Fear of Falling Fruit. Amazing, like just beautiful films. And I'm not a huge permaculture advocate apart from like your own personal land, but in terms of feeding the world or feeding a lot of people, I don't know like how possible it is for us to do that, to just permaculture everything, it's certainly not a very efficient way of doing things. And I'm kind of fairly open to having my mind changed, but I think a lot of people haven't really looked into the reality of it. But on your own land, or should everyone be doing a little bit of permaculture and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, like everyone could have some apple trees, some small apple trees in their garden, a small plum tree. There's a cordon of like 8 apple trees that will produce, probably 80 or 90 or 100 apples. And for a lot of people, they're not going to eat that many more apples than that in an entire year. So why wouldn't you do that? And there was, years ago I had this idea of like having a business called Fruitful Fences, where we would take something like this and we would design it for a person's garden and then put it in the garden. And you could kind of make sure the apples were right. And you could do it for a whole fence. So you can imagine that the whole fence around someone's property could be a variety of like fruit trees, things like raspberries, maybe even grapes in certain climates, figs in certain climates, passion fruits, vines and things like that, and berry bushes, and gooseberries, raspberries, maybe some strawberries at the bottom. And it would just be a nice, it would grow into in the summer this really attractive fruiting hedge, fruiting fence. And I still like that idea. I do still like that idea. I do like the idea of trying to go into something where I'm encouraging more fruit to grow and more trees to grow and all that. But there is a little bit of a problem that when you put fruit trees in a place, it does, depending on the climate, probably not so much in the UK, but in other countries, it'll attract a lot of animals and stuff. Maybe not so much in this kind of area. I don't know if there's a lot of fruit-eating animals. But potentially, like if you have rotten fruit on the ground, well, that's the problem. If you let it all rot, that you would maybe get different animals coming in to eat it. And definitely birds, of course. But I think I always like the idea that we talk about the Garden of Eden, and I guess my idea is like, and the word paradise, Jordan Peterson was saying paradise means a walled garden. It's almost like there's something paradise about a garden and some fruit, and there's not a lot of places in the world that you can go and get that experience. I've been to a number of places. I've never felt like I was in a fruit paradise. I've been to places that were like fruit centres. The Okanagan in Canada is a great fruit region, and Florida is a Homeland Florida, I think it's called, is a fruit region of Florida. But in terms of like maybe visiting a person that's got an amazing fruit garden, like I've never really been to that, and that would be cool. And the idea that they would get up in the morning and go and pick some fruit and eat their breakfast of fruit, I mean, that's just a beautiful idea to me. So that's the kind of thing I would like to build in the future, and probably have it as a retreat centre, where people can come and have that experience of a little bit of paradise for a little while. Relaxing place, they're eating the fruit off the trees, hopefully a nice view, relaxation, and maybe even do some education, some lectures and stuff at it and things like that. So that's what I would like to try and probably build for the future, I think it's a beautiful idea. But anyone can do this thing of having a few trees, having a cordon of trees, having some berries. It's really not that difficult, even in this climate. It's literally as easy as planting the tree, and it'll basically do the rest. Maybe not in some climates, in some places. It's funny, I know people who are in tropical places, and I think there's a lot of kind of naive people that go to the tropics and get some land and think that, oh, it's nice and easy. It's easy in a place like Scotland, which is a fruit paradise, right? It's easy here. I could plant apple trees all day long. They're all going to grow. They're all going to get enough water. The soil's going to be fine because there's enough water, and they'll grow all day long, and they'll produce plenty of apples. You don't have to do anything. My grandfather's got apple trees that are 50 years old plus, probably 60 years old actually. He doesn't do much to them. So that's Scotland or the UK or Northern Europe. I've heard quite a lot of people actually who live in sunnier places that have more trouble growing fruit than I have here, effortlessly. But I'm not growing as much fruit as them, obviously. But they've went away to Ecuador, blah blah blah, these places, buying all this land, and then they're talking about like, oh, the soil depletion and the blah blah blah. And I'm like, it's nothing to do with that. You just don't know what you're doing. Like, and one of them was saying, I was in a conversation with a guy who was like, as a farmer, I blah blah. I'm like, you're not a farmer. Like, let's take this back. You've got some land and you're trying to grow fruit trees. You're not a farmer. Don't. So people have this arrogance, like, I'm a farmer. I've got land and I've got a few trees. Like, that's, you know, that's not. A farmer is someone who, to me, it's the profession of growing food for sale, right? Not you've got land and you grow trees for your own consumption. And these guys were failing to grow trees, and they were blaming their soil and blaming their land. Like, maybe it is your soil, but maybe you just don't know what you're doing, right? Because I don't know what I'm doing, but I just plant these trees, and they're all thriving. They're all growing fine. I've never had to do anything. But a lot of these people are not in a very ideal place, I guess. So I question if the tropics is like the ideal place. I'll tell you one place I thought was like a paradise, a fruit paradise, was Hippocrates Health Institute. Now, it's not a fruit paradise because they don't serve any fruit. Almost literally. But it's a beautiful place. They've obviously spent a lot of money on it. Beautiful grounds. You know, that's an amazing place to go. But they have no fruit trees, I think, and they serve no fruit. And I even asked them, do you have any tomatoes? They said, no, we don't serve fruit. I said, but you've got peppers and cucumbers. They didn't really have a good answer for that, but they do sell sprouts and greens and vegetables. Disgusting. So, well, I had a good salad there, but like, and there's people that go around Hippocrates with no fruit tags, like, oh, they're a serious case, you know, they can't have any fruit. Crazy. Absolute craziness. Total craziness. It's fascinating that people don't get it. Anyway, yeah, you can have your own piece of paradise, I think. I know that people are going to complain and say, well, I don't have a garden, I don't have a this, I don't have a that. Like, well, yeah, but that doesn't mean you can't. You can get an allotment for like ridiculously cheap money, £20 a year or something like that in some places. So you could do an allotment thing, but you could just, you know, move to a place where the land is cheaper. Maybe if you're living in London, you're probably not going to have a house or a garden like this unless you're like a multi-millionaire or you've inherited it from your parents, and that's just the way it is there, I guess. But I think you can have this somewhere, and who's to say you can't be a multi-millionaire if that's what you want to do. So anyway, that's just my thoughts for the day. Thought I'd share with you something a little bit different. And the thing that growing fruit will make you aware of is how difficult, maybe that's not the right word, because it's actually quite easy, right, in some ways, but it can be difficult. And for example, with growing strawberries, I would grow strawberries over there, and almost all of them would get eaten, or a lot of them would get eaten by slugs and snails and things like that, and birds and whatever. And it was just kind of depressing to see it all get eaten, and disgusting, because you don't want to see a slug inside your strawberry. And I was watching, around about the same time I was doing that, I was watching a guy who used to do a pretty great YouTube channel where he was showing his orchard, and he had this orchard and he sold apples, rare apple varieties. Really brilliant channel, but he's kind of stopped. And he was a doctor, and I tried to get him to come to the fruit festival a couple of times, but he never really got back to me. And he what am I trying to say now? he was talking about how he tried to do it all organic and without any pesticides and without anything, and he just said that he couldn't do it. You know, he failed to do it that way, and he tried different methods and he tried all the suggestions and he tried the different stuff and none of it worked, and so he had to concede and end up using some pesticide, and I think he had to use like wasp traps and stuff to stop wasps from attacking his fruit. So that kind of changed my mind a little bit on the whole, you know, realities of growing fruit and things like that. You know, that it's harder than you think, that farmers, they're not spraying these chemicals for no reason. They're spraying it because their crops are going to be destroyed, and it's quite limited and it's quite regulated. And I just watched the guy's video on it and I was like, I kind of see his viewpoint. So since then I've never had a big thing about organic. And organic is a little bit of a scam because it's not what you think it is. A lot of the time people think it means unsprayed. It doesn't. And people think it means safer. It doesn't. People think it's not toxic. Of course it's toxic. You have to kill the pests. Of course the chemicals are toxic. So anyway, that was growing your own food brings you into that reality of what it's really like to plant things and then they grow and then other animals eat them. Like, that's not pleasant, right? So you want to try and protect them. Anyway, thank you for joining me, and I hope you got something out of this video. We have our webinar today and tomorrow and the next day about the UK Fruit Festival. If you'd like to learn more about it and learn more about this lifestyle and come along to the festival, it's fruitfest.co.uk/webinar. This year we have an outstanding educational programme delivered by Dr. Rick and Karen Dina, Dr. Doug Graham, Philly Raw Christina, Professor Rosalind Graham, Grant Campbell, Harriet Carr, Ted Carr, Melissa Raimondi, Jesse Bogdanovich. Just an absolute stellar, unbelievable lineup. And if you miss this, you're crazy. You're really crazy to miss this event. So last remaining spaces, join the webinar, see if it's for you, and we might see you at the festival this year. So thank you very much for watching.